Well, hello, lady. Nice to see you.
Hello, Angie.
It's so nice to have you back on again. And we're talking about a subject that is so important because I know I can speak for pet parents out there that there's nothing we want more than a compassionate veterinarian, a compassionate holistic veterinarian. I mean, dreamy. That's what we all dream of. I got lucky enough to find you long time ago, drove 4 hours to find your beautiful practice filled with compassionate women, and
Yes.
it was a beautiful thing, and it's not something I've ever seen before. I've seen other practices with like a single incredible holistic veterinarian, but not a team. So I know every time I get on with you, I just want to say kudos to that because it was a beautiful thing to be a part of and witness. And I feel like I now know it was a privilege because you're not there anymore. So we'll talk about that. But
Thank you.
I want to talk about compassion fatigue. Is it compassion? I know compassion fatigue. Is it a syndrome now? Because I know what it feels like.
Yeah.
It's happened to me. I know that we lose our best veterinarians to this. So I really want to talk about it, but I first want to make sure when I was like getting prepared to bring you on to talk about this, I first want people to understand what a holistic veterinarian is because I don't think people understand it's a whole level more of caring and understanding, and that you're not only caring for sick animals, you're battling an education and in a system that's telling you to do something that you know is not the right thing to do for the animal. So that's why I think it's important for you to talk about you became a veterinarian, and then what made you go, oh my God, I need to be a holistic veterinarian, and then how that impacts, because I feel like it would be more holistic veterinarians, or of course those people who got into it to help the animals in the first place are being affected the most by this.
So I'm so glad you brought this is a great starting conversation for us. And then I'll tell you my theory at the end of it if I remember. If I don't, remind me. But in vet school, I knew right away that there was a better way to practice medicine, that we can't thrive with our clients. We can't thrive as humans if all we can do is suppress symptoms, because symptoms are the body's way of saying, I'm not okay, please help me. And so to me, I just kind of always instinctively knew this, that, diarrhea, metronidazole, whatever, Clavamox, and we're always just trying to push down the symptoms, which are going to reemerge in a different way. So in vet school, I knew I was going to go out and start studying. And it led to this beautiful evolution over 20 years of starting with acupuncture, and then my journey through Chinese herbal medicine. And then my journey continued through massage and food therapy. Food is a huge, important foundational medicine for me.
Mhm.
So we always talk about nutrition. And then as I started to suffer from compassion fatigue and burnout, which at the time didn't realize that's actually what was happening to me. I was just exhausted every day. Was moving to then move to different types of medicine, energy medicine and homeopathy. So, which is what I'm studying right now currently. So my theory on holistic veterinarians and burnout and compassion fatigue is that potentially we are the less affected. However, there's an exact extreme of that which we're more affected. And here's why. Here's my theory. I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. On the one hand, we see the most beautiful healing, and we know when we're going to work, we're doing such great work. And if we can learn to balance that, we are not going to get compassion fatigue and burnout. We got to learn how to balance that because we're practicing such great medicine. But on the other hand, taking each case individually and treating each patient as an individual is very difficult. And it takes a lot of education far beyond what you get in vet school. And that in and of itself can be exhausting. And then there's the regular veterinarian who is often just in a bad culture, or just driven to see appointments every 15 minutes. Perhaps they're in corporate. And then there's also maybe the Western practitioner that says, my patients aren't getting better. I'm tired of doing this. Like, this is exhausting. So I think like there's like the full spectrum of people that are susceptible to compassion fatigue and burnout in veterinary medicine.
And during your education, do they talk about this? Is
Not
there mental health resources, or is there, do they
so.
even warn you? Like, do you get in
No.
the animal lover? Because growing up, you're an animal lover, you're good with animals. What is everyone telling you to do your whole life? All my
Right.
whole life, you should be a veterinarian. I am so not, would never be able to cut it out. I would never have been able to do it. I'm so glad that I didn't. I love where I ended up.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so they don't offer any of that, right? They don't even give you a warning. Hey, animal lover.
I think that things are changing. I think that that we're starting to have the conversation, but I don't think we're having the conversation enough, and I certainly don't think we're having it. What we do is we're sort of like floating around the idea. So we're saying like, oh yeah, compassion fatigue and burnout. We're starting to talk about suicide, and 1 in 6 veterinarians contemplate suicide. 1 in 6. That's staggering. We need to be saying those words in vet school. We need to be talking about it in vet school. When I decided to sell my practice, I had no idea what was happening to me. All I know was that I had to get out, I had to get away. Like, I was dying. I felt like I was dying. So it took me a long time to circle back and realize what happened, what went wrong, what I did wrong, what I could have done better. And as I went on this journey, realizing, oh, there's a better way to do this. And you're right. It's like, it starts in the vet school. It starts with young people who aren't suffering, to just say there are tools out there.
Right. And I don't, the fact that you want to do the right thing, you want to continue your education, and it's not like you're encouraged. I'll never forget learning that. You're literally, I remember holistic veterinarians telling me, oh no, we're looked at as crazy by our colleagues in the conventional world. And I'm like,
There is a huge divide between us, sadly. And there
yeah.
doesn't need to be, because there's a place for all of us to work alongside each other and to help each other. But you're right. And that too creates a lot of stress.
What are signs? Like, now that you've been through
Yeah.
and you can look back on it, even hearing you and reading about it is how I was like, yep, that's what happened. Because you really do become, it's almost like a part of you shuts down.
Yeah.
So that you can survive.
Yeah.
So what are some of
So
the signs?
before I say that, I just want to say an important thing for me, because there's a lot of controversy surrounding the term compassion fatigue. And it was coined, and to me, it's a beautiful phrase. But a lot of people feel like compassion can never fatigue. Compassion reinvigorates you, and I think that it can if it's put in the right place. But often our compassion sort of spirals into empathy, and that empathy we take on, and so that becomes fatigue. And compassion in and of itself is the actual act of relieving suffering. So I walked away from veterinary medicine temporarily. That's compassion fatigue. Like, I walked away from relieving suffering. So when we talk about compassion fatigue, we're talking about compassion fatigue, empathy fatigue, all of this, burnout. All of this is kind of the same topic. I mean, it literally means the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
So for me, I used to be so excited to go to work. And my first sign was, of course, when you're going to your clinic year after year, day after day, you're taking the same exact path. And I turn onto my street. And the minute I turned onto my street, my heart rate would elevate, my blood pressure would go up. I knew, not that a client, not that a patient, it was never about the clients, it was never about the patient, it was always about the business. I knew that as I got on that street and when I hit the door, there was going to be a crisis that I needed to solve. And that was my first sign. And then it started to just really increase, and just fatigue, general fatigue. And then probably about 6 months before I decided to sell, I started actually having serious heart palpitations. And so my
Wow.
blood pressure was elevated and I had an enormous amount of heart palpitations. And so that was the physical body saying, like, you know, and even to my clients, and even this is the sad thing, even to my clients, even to my beautiful staff of doctor, like just the most beautiful staff, I couldn't even verbalize that to them. I could not even tell them, hey, this is what was happening. I was just like, I have to leave. I have to get away. And it did take me quite a bit of time to circle back and say, oh, that's what happened. Oh, that's what I was going through.
I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's funny because I know a lot of clients get angry, but yeah, and I can't do it anymore. That's why I know I wouldn't be able to be a veterinarian. I have to separate myself. I do not know how. I lack the boundary of saying, no, I can't help you right now. A
Yeah.
dog is suffering, and I've always been this way. I remember being worried that I was going to put myself in danger because the moment an animal is in need, no matter what, as a kid, jump in the canal, jump off. Like I don't know what it
This
is.
is it. Yeah.
So yeah, I know what I'm supposed to be doing in the realm and something, and I do. And what helped me when I walked away from my rescue, because shit, man, you get known and for doing what you do, then
Absolutely.
the dumping, the leaving dog,
Yes.
checking dogs into boarding and never picking them up, the dumping, the customers coming in and going, here's the dog I've had for 17 years, but now it shits and pisses all over the place and it's got this disease and I don't want it.
Yeah.
And just, it was like seeing how other humans were treating animals. That was just like,
That's brutal. And even though this is the Veterinary Compassion Project, it is 100% for anyone working in the animal care world. And that includes people that are rescuing out there, wildlife rescue, cat and dog rescue, like anybody doing this. This work is so hard. It's
so
exhausting.
hard,
Yeah,
so hard. And same thing going into the groom shop. I remember going, yep,
absolutely.
no more. Seeing that 80% of the dogs coming through my door were suffering
Oh,
and being like, oh my gosh.
yeah.
So I'm still getting to do something about it from a bigger
Yeah,
level. But you
you are.
mentioned the veterinary compassion. Is it compassion fatigue project?
So it
Tell us
was
what that is.
originally,
Okay.
but we
A lot
changed
of
it.
words.
So, yep, so many words, but also just kind of like a negative connotation. Like,
Right.
and what we really want, and not, we don't want to talk about the compassion fatigue. What we really want to do is hold space for compassion for ourselves. Because you're exactly right. As a veterinarian, as a staff member, we will stay until every animal is taken care of. We will not eat. We will not go to the bathroom. Like, we are on the floor and we are there giving it everything that we've got. And we don't give it to ourselves. And we say, tomorrow we will. Tomorrow we will. And we
And
don't.
like you said, talking about it, not
Yeah.
even knowing that this is a thing.
Right.
All of a sudden going, why am I just shut down and I don't even know
Yes.
what's happening? So like
Yes.
being able to talk about it, being able to, because now it shouldn't be, I love animals, you should be a veterinarian. It would be like, huh, do you have the personality? Do you understand what being a veterinarian really means?
That's right. We're not playing with animals all day. I mean, there's a
Right.
huge component to relationships with humans and the relationships with our staff, with our clients. Like, and this is what the relationship with staff, the running the business part of it, this was the thing that was most exhausting for me and the reason why I needed to
Right.
leave.
Or imagine, what do you want to do? You want to help animals, right? So you're
Mhm.
going to tell the owner what to
Yeah.
do or what needs to be done, but doesn't mean they're necessarily going to do it. So you weren't able to help that animal. Yeah, I get it, man. I get it. And I can't believe it. So you've started this project and it's available for anybody who is working with animals and is listening to this and knows exactly what we're talking about. Because
Yes.
in my opinion, the people that are listening to this that are working with animals and know what we're talking about, you are the most important people we need.
Yes.
You are human beings that do have empathy and compassion and care about our animals, and we don't want to lose you.
Yes.
So Dr. Erin Holder has created this incredible, I love it because, through the worst things come. And I feel like I hate that we lost you as a veterinarian at Florida Wild. I hate that you had to recover, but I'm so glad that this came out of it, because you're going to help so many other people. What do
I
you
hope
hope to do?
so.
Yeah, like, what do you hope to do besides build a community where we can literally talk to each other and
That is
cry
the
with each other?
most, yes, that, I mean, there's lots more that I want to do, but that's the most important thing, is to just like kind of wash away this stigma. And, when we're going to vet school, when we're trying to get in, it's so competitive. When we're in vet school, they set up schools that are very competitive amongst each other. We're in there to thrive. We're in there to succeed. That's our personalities. And what we end up doing is building these walls around ourselves and being able to say, I've got this. I'm okay. Like, I'm not suffering. And so that's the first problem, is to try and start breaking down these walls and saying, like, you may not be suffering right now, but let's join a community so that you don't have to, and you can stay in the profession, which is exactly what you said. Like, we have to keep people in this profession. We are going to suffer a huge 15,000 veterinarian shortage, I think, in 2035. Like, we're in real trouble. This profession is in real trouble.
Right. And when that
So
happens, I want to remind everybody that it's also an opportunity. And when
yes,
it's an opportunity like that, it's going to be the big wigs that come in that offer and fill that need. And that's not what we want. And we're talking
yes,
about where everything is a standard of care. Everything gets, your puppy, you get these vax, these meds, these whatever, and
yep,
not personalized. And you don't have any compassion or empathy
yeah,
from the person who's just literally a robot, even if it'll be a person. I mean, it
yeah,
may not even be. It's probably going to be AI and someone writing something out here in the future, but they're trying to figure out how to, you know, um, make money off of this huge shortage of veterinarians. And it's really sad, because it's the good ones we're losing. What is it? Only 20. This was a statistic from like a couple of years ago now. There's only 2,500 holistic veterinarians in the United States,
oh wow,
and it's dwindling. And
holy
then we're
moly,
losing, they get out of vet school. It's not go open a practice or go work for a practice. A lot of them are leaving and going to work for brands, or talk
yeah.
about that, because I don't think people understand how that works.
Well, and just to mention, like, this isn't just about cats and dogs. We always think about that, but we've got our large animal. We also have our food animals. And so, our USD animal veterinarians, like, these are very important humans. And so we've got to be able to keep these guys in their profession and working, keeping us safe from diseases, exotic diseases. I mean, this is like, we're not just caring for cats and dogs. Like, there's a huge range of what we do for the
Wow.
people. So, yeah. So, yeah. So, um, I forgot your question because I was worried about that.
I'm thinking about what a great point that was, because it's literally taking care of our food
Yeah,
systems.
our food
And,
source. Yeah,
again, you don't want that person to not care anymore what they're doing.
yeah.
And that's
So
literally what happens.
I think this is, you're right. This is an opportunity of being able to swing back in the other direction, though, because I feel that this corporate takeover like mushroomed, and it happened. And then we're seeing like the repercussions of it. And we're seeing like, okay, we don't want to be, in that kind of setting, a lot of veterinarians. So they may come back out and be able to open up their own practices. So we just need that netting up under there of the Veterinary Compassion Project to catch them when they come out and say, okay, look, you can do this. You can own your own practice. Don't do what I do in a lot of regards. Hire, please. Don't think that you need to do everything by yourself, which was like my biggest thought, is that I've got to do all this. I've got to run the business. I've got to run the finances. And there's so many wonderful sources out there. So the Veterinary Compassion Project is about bringing together these beautiful sources of how to move forward in the business aspect, how to work on culture. We have 5 bolsters of having a very positive, loving culture in our hospitals. But then there's another really key to this, and this is that veterinary medicine is traumatizing. Like, I hate to, it sounds aggressive when I say that, but I really don't know any other way to say it. That we get traumatized at work with veterinary medicine. And we all come into this work having had traumas in our past. And so oftentimes we get re-traumatized at work. And so if we're not able to look back and handle those traumas and heal ourselves, how possibly can we expect to stay in this profession and thrive in this profession? Is just not possible. So Veterinary Compassion Project is trying to also bring tools to people that will say, here are all these different ways that you can think about healing. So, maybe somatic healing, which I just wrote about in my last blog, maybe that doesn't resonate with you, but maybe ART therapy, which I'm going to write about, maybe that resonates with you. Because we can't just have a great business consultant and a great financial consultant and a great team if we haven't gone backwards and done that very difficult work.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
You make me want to cry.
No,
It's like,
there's hope.
because it's like dreaming what you want your veterinarian to sound like and be like. And I know I'm not the only one. What can us pet parents who do love our holistic veterinarians who are so compassionate, what can we do to help? Besides, of course, tell them about this resource. And you have a retreat coming up, which I want to talk
Yes.
about. But what can pet parents do with their veterinarian? Like if we got one of these killer compassionate ones, besides I'm constantly sending them people, if they do
Yeah.
telehealth or they live in their area, what are some other ways that we can support them and keep them around and, encourage them? I would have never guessed in a million years that you were going through this,
So great at the facade, so great at smiling. And when, there's this beautiful courtyard in my practice with a fountain, and I'd walk across, and one day I was right before I sold, I was walking across and I was like, I don't want to enter the exam room. And I was overcome with, I don't want to do this. And that is so crazy to me because let me tell you, I know every veterinarian says they have the most amazing clients, but my clients were beautiful. And for me to say that had nothing to do with them and everything to do with I had not done that work. So that was so shocking. Pet parents, just bring kindness, just bring heart. And I think most do. I genuinely don't feel like it's the clients or the patients that exhaust us. Unless we're practicing a kind of medicine that's so suppressive and we're never making our patients better. Now, that can certainly make you exhausted.
But don't you
But
feel
just
like that's what convention, like
the majority.
yeah, they end
Yeah.
up in that,
Yeah,
they're the
absolutely.
ones who are leaving. They're the ones that are committing suicide. They're the ones that
Yeah.
got in it to help the animals
Yes,
and
the majority,
they're not. I
the
mean,
great majority.
I was looking at it. I want to say, isn't it uh like the third leading cause, the profession that's like third leading in cause of
Yeah.
suicide?
Yeah, it's way up there. I haven't checked the statistic lately, but I was floored when I started writing some of the statistics down. I
And I
just
don't
I
it
couldn't believe
makes
it.
sense to me. I say to people, it's a person who wants to help animals, loves animals, wants to help them, and gets into this system that has to feel like you're experimenting. And I've interviewed so many veterinarians and talked to so many at all stages.
Yeah.
Or the young one who all they're doing all day, or the vet tech, is putting the animals down all day.
Oh,
And that's
I
all
can't
that
I can't
and
imagine.
that's not what they signed up for or what they
Yeah,
wanna do, so I can't
yeah,
even imagine how quickly that affects them.
yeah,
Even just getting rid of, closing my rescue down,
mhm,
me because I was losing my mind,
yeah,
and me thinking to myself, I was so disappointed and upset that I was doing it and had to do this to save my own mental health, and then literally was like, "Oh, wait a minute. I'm now helping thousands by
yeah,
creating what I do and educating, and, I feel better." But when I was in it, man, I was like, "I can't do this anymore. I'm
yeah,
not sleeping." You've got 5 geriatric hospice dogs that, whatever.
absolutely. Yeah,
exhausting. I
it's
get it. I can't even
exhausting.
imagine being and doing what you
If
guys
we're
do.
not learning the tools that we need to learn, and this is why the retreat is so great. And
Yes, tell
yes,
us about the retreat.
I'm working on an online program, so because I know everybody can't come to the retreat, that's going to include a lot of this. But this is why this retreat is so important, because we are literally, like, I sat down. I was blessed enough to go hide in Hawaii for 2 years. On the beaches of Hawaii, I sat down and said, what failed, what piece? And so I came up with all these different pieces of what failed. And then I started to plug in all these different tools. So for instance, veterinarian, technician, animal rescuers, we live our lives at work with our heart rates shifting like insane. Like, it's just insane. And the shot of cortisol that we get from a client being mad, a technician being upset, an animal that's dying or crashing, the cortisol that we get lasts for so long. So what can we do about that? We can learn heart coherence, and we can learn to regulate our heart rate while we're on the floor. So that decreases our exhaustion, and it stops pulling like all the energy that we have out of our reserve. We wake up in the morning and we've built up some reserve, and we get to work. And if we're not able to keep the reserve of energy full, we get home at the end of the day. It's all we can do to feed our kids and like forget about our spouse, right? Like, we're crawling to the bed to get into bed. And what for? For the animals? Like, no, like, the animals don't even want us to live like this. Like, what are we doing this for?
Right.
And I think it's just simply that we just don't know a better way. It's just the way that we want to live, a way that we live. It's not the way we should want to live.
Right.
So this retreat has got learning heart coherence, learning on the floor. We introduce all these healing modalities for past traumas. We talk about having confrontations, because most veterinarians I know, I was one of them, like, okay, hospital manager, have that confrontation with that employee. I don't want to do that. And the reason that I didn't want to do that is because I didn't know that we should have these confrontations heart to heart. That we don't need to be powerful. We don't need to be weak. We need to be loving. And we can come into these situations and have very difficult conversations. We need to work on the culture in our practices. We talk about that a lot. We learn what compassion fatigue is and how we can not go there. We sort of like locate it in our bodies and try to keep it, if we can understand it, know what it is, know where it is in our body, then we can be aware of it and make choices. We hear
What
from
about boundaries?
boundaries. That's another lecture. Yes, it's so important.
I'm way too old to figure out how to start putting those up. But I mean, I don't like,
No,
to me, it's
gotta
avoid,
do it.
completely hide,
Yeah.
so that I don't have to figure out what the hell they are.
Yeah.
But you have to, because it's almost like it gets out. We found a person who cares, and
Yes.
everybody like jumps on that thing. It's
Well, and
nuts.
how about opening up a new practice? Like, as a brand new vet, I've been out for 2 years, open up a new practice. Do you think I had boundaries? No.
No.
I'm scared of Google reviews. I'm scared that clients are going to say I'm not a nice or good veterinarian. So, like, my boundaries were completely obliterated when I
Good
first
point.
started. And then I started hiring really great veterinarians, and they're like, "What are you doing? Like,
You're
what
gonna
is
burn out."
happening?" Yeah, you're gonna burn out, lady. Nah, no, what? I'm good. I'm good. I'm fine.
Care
I'm
of
okay.
No, they won't.
So we definitely have a talk about setting some healthier boundaries, but not just, and we have a wonderful social worker, Angie Aurora, and she works in the veterinary social work. And I just love her energy. And so she talks to us about setting boundaries. Yeah, setting boundaries on the outside is super important, but what do we need to know first? What are our boundaries? What do I want to go work in a place that euthanizes animals all the time? What do I need? And being able to say, this is what I want, this is what I need, and to move forward with that. So, yeah. And then we have other veterinarians coming in to talk about, you are coming in, talking about your experiences of compassion fatigue. We've got a beautiful heart math instructor coming in to teach us that heart coherence and regulation on the floor.
Great.
And then the fun things that we have, we're going to do yoga. We've got a sound healing concert, and we have a showing of Rescued Hearts, which is a documentary on how horses heal humans. So we have quite a bit of fun learning camaraderie in store for this retreat.
I love it. I literally, before I heard you were having this retreat, I was literally going, you know what we need? A retreat where a bunch of women sit down and we go share and like literally the next thing I know, Amanda's sending that and I'm like, whoa. But yeah, I think that there's a lot of possibility. I was sharing an experience I just had going to a retreat that's just like it was called The Art of Future Making, and it was all about using your imagination. And that is what I think also a lot of people suffer from is being stuck in a box and thinking you have to do those certain things. Just like you said, where no, I don't want to work in a clinic that's euthanizing animals all day. No, I'm not going to go work for a conventional. No. And it's like you're saying these things and you think they don't exist. It's impossible to find those things, but they are. And there's more and more. And the more we come together and we speak and share, the more it'll be a normal thing instead of us witches over there doing, whatever it is, which we're also okay being called that too.
It's fine. The time is now though, right? Like it's now. It's people are really aware. And I know that it's now because of just how much this has opened up and these people that I'm meeting, these healers, that I am not offering any healing modality recommendation unless I've personally done it. So I like to go experience it, then I'll process it, write about it, and then put it out there for the veterinary community to know about. But they're just so willing to help. They're, and a lot of them are like, I had no idea. And some of them have been so profoundly affected by the story of veterinarians, and they just are blown away. And they're just, how can I help? So I think the time is now. We're ready for this.
Well, thank you for putting it together. I'm sorry that you went through that, but I'm glad that this is the outcome of it because it's going to help so many people. And I'm I'm excited to be a part of it. How do they find out? How do they find out more information on it?
Yes, you can come to our website, www.veterinariancompassionproject.com. And there's a retreat page that gives you all the details that you need to know, clicks to registration, lays out the schedule in case you like to know those details. I'm one of those people like to know the details beforehand, tells you where to stay. Hotel Petaluma is where it's going to be held in Northern California, April 4th through 6th in 2025. And and then we have a wonderful wine tasting on Sunday that's optional. So if you want to buy an extra ticket and go spend a little bit more time with your friends drinking wine in beautiful wine country, then please come join us.
And it's in the most beautiful place, and I can't wait to see it. Just, fell in love with California. I don't even know I think Northern is my favorite, but yeah, it is a beautiful place. Thank you so much for coming on today and sharing this amazing project and talking about it. I can't wait to see you in April.
See you soon. Thank you.